Nice to have you all here. We have an amazing team with us tonight. Actually, I should say today. We have Taylor Ryan, we have Sangram Vrajay, we have Clara from G2 as well. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Boom.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Awesome. We're so excited. We have a really cool subject today. So we're going to talk about online communities. So we have different perspectives here from branding, marketing, business side, and also from actually a community channel, which is YouTube Crowd. So we're going to talk about a lot of strategies, tips. What can you do to nurture and build your own community as well? So before we dive in, I just want to give you guys a few moments just to introduce yourself, say hi, say what you do and what's your experience with online communities. So can we start just with Clara? Hey, Clara.
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. So I am Clara Flaherty, and I work at G2 as the community manager. For anyone who's on the call who doesn't know, G2 is a software and services review site. We've been around since about 2015. I've been with the company about 4 years, helping build out our review base and our user base, and I'm really excited to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Clara. We also have Taylor Ryan. Hey, Taylor. Thanks for being here. I know it's quite late for you. You're all over in Denmark, right? How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm in Copenhagen, Denmark. It is 9 p.m. Still fairly bright outside and will be until about 11. But yeah, thank you for having me. Super excited to be here. Should I tell a little bit about myself now?
Yeah,
Sure.
definitely.
So I'm a 6-time startup co-founder. I've been in the startup scene for about 13 years. I've used groups in a lot of different ways, a lot more gray hat, growth hacking, scraping, all kinds of fun stuff. So the stuff that you can get your hands dirty with is kind of my game. I run Architecture Quote, which is a SaaS platform basically for aggregating projects for architects. You can kind of see the same tendencies of scraping stuff. I also do a growth hacking agency called Clint Marketing, and I run event series and online classes called Growth Secrets. And super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thanks so much. We're so happy. And it was quite late, so we really appreciate you being here with us. And finally, we have Sangram Vrajay. We actually met him in another virtual event that we were partners with, Elevate Summit, and we absolutely loved his talk. Really, impressive guy, passionate, and so positive. So I want to thank you for being here today, Sangram. Really appreciate it again. Can you just say hi, introduce yourself, and tell a bit about yourself as well?
Absolutely. So first of all, thanks for having me and all of us right before 4th of July. Like this might be the best thing we do before we go into the holidays and drinking and whatnot. And quite frankly, I feel like I'm here to learn as much as everybody else over here. I think we all want to be part of a community. That's now more important than it has ever been. So for me, as a founder of a company called Terminus here based in Atlanta, we're about 250 people, and we are on G2. So yeah, as Clara said, go and check out G2. We're like the one platform on many different G2's ABM grids out there. So they're a phenomenal company. And I think that from a community perspective, we started a community called Flip My Funnel about 4 years ago. And truly we saw that the power of building a truly authentic community. And it really matters how you go about it. It really matters what you see and do. You cannot be someone that says that, oh, we're going to build this and then kind of try to sneak in other things in it. Like, so there's so much authenticity required in it. So I'm constantly learning on that and seeing companies like G2 and others building them in a massive way. So again, excited to be here and hear and learn.
Awesome. Yes, I think you mentioned something that we're going to touch on a little bit later on, but authenticity is everything. And if the community is not authentic, it's just not going to work, right? So I think that's where a good place to start. So before we dive right in, I just want to tell our audience here. So please let us know if you have any questions. We have a poll going on your right side of the screen as well. We have our chat, and of course later on we're going to have a Q&A as well. So again, we're going to have an opportunity for you to join us and actually ask questions if you want to open the camera and engage more with our speakers as well. So feel free to shoot us a message and on the chat and let us know what you want to know, like what's your struggle, what's your pain point right now, how can we help you as well. So this is an opportunity for everyone to learn and also create a lot of value for everyone. So with that said, I think we can actually dive in our program. And so we did talk about your experience with communities, and I just want to quickly mention, because we have this pandemic going on and we are living in a challenging time, like we can say that. So why do you guys think communities are so relevant at this point in age? Why this circumstances that we're all living in, why is it now so relevant to be a part of a community and to nurture a community if you're a brand, if you're a company as well? So maybe we can circle back to Clara.
Yeah, definitely. I think something that I've been thinking about a lot lately is the power that comes when someone says same to you, like same here. And I think a community helps create that. Like all the communities that I'm a part of, I've found a strength and a power by sharing experiences with other people. So the communities that we build around that are built so that it's easier to find those people who you can say, me too, same, I'm in that boat, I understand you. So I think that's a huge power and a huge strength that communities give. And then especially now in this pandemic time, like the ability to have an online community and an online place to build those connections and build those relationships is so important, just for for businesses, but also just for general well-being as a human. Like there's so much more need to connect right now with the lack of face-to-face interactions that we're allowed to have. So finding those communities and creating those communities for your user base is just so critical.
Yeah,
definitely. Do
you
you guys
want
want
to
to add?
jump in and add comments and color commentary versus you asking one question and we kind of like waiting for you to
That is so much better. Yes.
All right, I'll make your life a little bit easier over there. So and it becomes really interesting in a virtual environment. So welcome to virtual life. So I think Clara touched on something really interesting. I think we all right now are kind of alone in this busy world and craziness. And the idea of finding a safe environment where you could actually share something in a closed environment, safe environment is important. So for example, yes, we all can be on LinkedIn, and I'm sure everyone here is on LinkedIn and posts something on LinkedIn on a regular basis, but it's still kind of open. It still doesn't feel like you can truly get to the level. And some people do, but it's really hard. You don't even know if the same people are going to see it. You don't know if the relationships are going to be there. Some happen and it's great, but it's not the same as a closed in support community that have a common purpose. So if you are today thinking about like, well, our, like for example, I started a community called Peak Community, which is literally for marketers right now to get 1% better each week. And I launched it like 2 weeks ago to just test it out. And I did that because I'm missing the idea of like, okay, we're done with the of like, oh, it's sad. It's, like we got to get back to business. We got to get that to do things. So I'm looking for like-minded people that are saying, you know what? I want to get 1% better and I want to start doing that. And it's really hard to find that just going out there and doing stuff like that. So I think the idea of community, to again back to Clara, I feel like people want to be seen, people want to be heard, and people want to feel safe. And if you can create those three things in an environment, gosh, you can build a massive, valuable, massive, not in terms of numbers necessarily, but massive in terms of impact that you can have on people's lives.
Nice. Can I be the contrarian to a lot of this? Because I feel like I'm going to totally go in so many different directions.
We need this.
Awesome. So there's always like going to be like, oh, that's not true guy. And I don't want to be like that guy throughout this whole thing, but I have, I guess, my own thoughts and feelings on it. So one of the byproducts or kind of second order of magnitude kind of things that come out of COVID-19 is that, yeah, we're stuck at home, which means we're going to be online more. So you see consumption up exponentially across all channels. So for the last 3 months, every day has been Black Friday in terms of the conversions that you see on Amazon since the early part of March, which means people are buying tons of crap they don't need. They're engaged on stuff that honestly is I guess interesting at the time, but they're not able to do the same activities. So you're seeing huge boosts across different channels, which for a lot of marketers should be an opportunity. But it also means that there's a lot of, let's just say, nefarious players out there that are taking advantage of this. One of the biggest things that I've had a challenge with over the last few years is, are we allowed to use colorful language, by the way? Is that I guess I'll
I
say
mean,
that. Oh, it's fine.
whatever you're comfortable with.
I'm comfortable with everything. So, so like this is a video of a click farm out in China. And so if you're wondering where all your engagement is going and how other people are boosting company pages across the board and seeing tons of engagement, it's a mixed blend of this and a lot of different spinners that kind of work like chatbots. The most frustrating thing in the world, especially for marketers that are tasked with something in the way of expanding the reach on a company page or a company channel, is that it ain't going to happen unless you're paying money. It's back to like the old days of like newspapers and like your local, I guess, supermarket where you have to pay to get an ad anywhere, or you have to pay to get a reach across to people. So yeah, I do believe that there are groups that are being bolstered, and of course, social media in general, I would say Facebook is always going to be the best place for groups because they hit your news feed. But I haven't seen anything on LinkedIn in terms of group action forever, and I'd love to hear somebody else's thoughts and perspective.
Yeah, and I would just like say, I mean, I have a LinkedIn group initially started there, and it's like the hardest thing to create engagement in that group. I'm like, oh my God, you're on this, like, come on, now press a button, right? So you're right. So going contrary again on that one, because now we're going to go to an infinite loop over here. But I'll stop after this, I promise, and then jump to that again. Is that right there, right? Exactly what you're talking about is the opportunity to have niche communities, because it's been 3 years I've been on Facebook, and I like completely got off. Like, oh my God, I don't want to hear another pie recipe, right? Like, I don't want to see, your kids on vacation. Like, it's just not no longer my favorite thing to do anymore. So it went back to like, okay, I want to create, goes back to the three things. Can I create a safe where they're not distracted by all craziness, and they do, and is there a common mission? And I'm telling you, like, I started one again, as I said, a couple of weeks ago, and it's been really fascinating to see that people are like thirsty for an authentic conversation where they feel safe and stuff. Now, it may not be the next Facebook or anything like that. To your point, may not be massive, but I don't think massive is necessarily the goal for most people. What I think for me personally, it's about, can we create 100 people with great authentic relationship and conversations? They will have, and if they can drive business for you and you can have great relationship with them, it will, most people, 100 great connections can drive their business to the nth level. 100 great connections. But a lot of people have 1,000 or 10,000 really bad connections. I accept every single request because I don't have the power, like the willpower to even engage anymore on those connections. So I just say, okay, fine, accept and move on. But 100 solid, strong connections, I think those are transformative.
I think, just to jump in there, I think another thing where businesses sometimes go wrong is when you're building a community, building it for the business goals, which obviously is important, and obviously you wanna achieve the goals and the numbers that you're trying to hit, but you have to remember that who you're building it for and who is going to be helping you and collaborating with you to build it, and those are your members. So what do they want? And something that I recently read was, ask them what they want. Don't assume that like what your users want. Just ask them, send them a survey, like get some real feedback of where it should be, of the types of interactions they want to have, etc. I think that's something we forget is like, okay, how is this going to help the business? It doesn't matter. Like, if you want the community to be successful, how is it going to help the people you're serving?
I think it always comes down to, of course, there has to be a quality game here, but for me, it's always been a numbers game. So if I'm able to manipulate the conversation to sound like I'm answering the questions, like using a decision tree like this and 3 virtual assistants out in the Philippines to have meaningful conversations by making sure that every conversation looks real. So this is my decision tree when I connect with 100 people a day on LinkedIn using automation tools across 3 different accounts using 3 different virtual assistants to have meaningful conversations. Now, whether or not the content to them feels like it's copied is neither here nor there, because to them that actually has been a real dialogue. And I do agree with you, Claire. I think that there's absolutely a need to uncover what is the nature of intent for them coming to that group, but what is that spark moment or that thing that you can combine over a process in order to continue to have that same conversation hundreds, if not thousands of times to scale up. Because ultimately, I don't want to do things manually because it doesn't scale, and I can't do that across an organization. But I definitely agree that it's important to ask people and figure out, or ask enough people enough times so that you don't have to ask.
Yeah.
Well, that was a fun question and a fun conversation.
We shut it off strong, I would say. I think you all brought so many amazing points, and I think maybe the next step to move forward would be, what would be actually the first step? So are you actually going to build a community to suit a business goal, or you're going to build a community to actually serve the audience with valuable connections, as Sangram said? So do you guys think, what's the first step to start this community and make sure it's successful? It's to set out that goal first, and that would, of course, change the channel. That would set the tone to the content. Would that be your first step?
I could jump in. I always use the analogy of watering holes. So like, you think of like the Savannah, not Savannah, Georgia, but like the great Savannah of Africa, and every animal's got to go to drink. And so the idea is that you need to go where people are consuming the stuff that they're not thinking about buying your stuff, so that it's almost an appreciation of like Inception, where you're kind of swooping in and tossing the idea in. And again, to me, it comes down to a numbers game. So if I can join enough communities in enough places where people are going through these watering holes, places where they go to learn, where they go to consume, then I'm all right. So I'm building massive lists of different groups that would be relevant for potential buyers. And I never hit a group that's under 3,000 people. And usually most people aren't a part of 15, 20, or 30 different groups. So the reality is, what is unique in that group is not necessarily copied or seen as plagiarism in another group. So what I'll often do is use the same combination of 15, 20, 30 different statuses to eventually end up peppering what I know is a high action, highly engaged piece of content. And you can see this across LinkedIn. So like, this was like a really fun presentation that I did, where this guy told like a cute little folksy story that basically ended with like, don't forget where you come from, and it's about his boss. And then within a few days, he spotted it somewhere else, and he was like, oh, that's weird, somebody copied my exact status. And then a few weeks later, again and again and again and again, somebody decided to put their product with the status. So add a product image, and oh yeah, don't forget where you come from. So at some point, I feel like, there is no such thing as duplicate content. So why not use the same watering holes that are obviously in use, and use the same pieces of content that engage across other channels or other similar watering holes to bolster your message to really reach the biggest amount of people possible. Does that make sense, or am I crazy?
Well, so what is I mean, it seems like you have a slide for every person. So you clearly are prepared for.
Yeah, man.
And I feel like what you're talking about is scale, right? Is like, you're talking about like, how do you create massive automated scaled communities? Is that a good way to phrase it?
Well, I got a slide for this actually. So I kid you not. So like I use like this great analogy that I love from does anybody know Sean Avery or the Sean Avery rule? Has anybody heard of this? All right, maybe you'll understand it when I actually go live with it. Has anybody seen this clip on like SportsCenter or anything? So they had to make a rule in the middle of the NHL playoffs because this guy decided instead of putting his back to the goalie, he would turn around and distract the goalie, which resulted in a single goal, which could have changed the entire nature of the playoffs in 2008. So the commissioners had to come together and basically say, whoa, you can't do that. This is not how the game is played. No. That is the nature of the game. Moneyball's another example, but there's this really great quote. I think we've all probably heard it in one place or another. But if you're not cheating, you're not trying. The only reason that rules are made is because somebody went around something that was either deemed to be less than savory or something that wasn't done before. So to me, yeah, it's working within the confines of a system that exists, but how can I work around it? And of course, how can I scale this up so I don't manually have to burn time on stuff that I can continue to learn, experience, try, evolve, and this rapid experimentation across things that maybe sometimes require moral flexibility ultimately leads to either more conversions or more revenue. And I don't feel like I'm necessarily doing a bad service because I'm providing products that I believe in.
Right. Now, the reason I asked that is because the way you're expressing these things, and those are all like, and it makes sense. You're talking about growth hacking and like, man, spreadsheets and like all the groupings and stuff that makes perfect sense on all of these things, because you're at some point, yes, you got to do it. I guess that's one way to build a community, and I think there's a tremendous amount of need out there. Otherwise, why would people be joining that? So it makes perfect sense. Another way of building community that I've seen or I've done in the past, and I love to hear, Clara, as you guys have built it on the backs of a great idea and a platform out there, was just getting people around a specific problem, and that leading people to say, yeah, okay, this is the problem. So Flip My Funnel was like is a classic example of it. And again, our goal with the community was to also build a community so we create future customers for our company. So what is the goal with the community is absolutely the number one place to start. Laura, back to your question, is like, what do you start? What is the goal of this community? Our goal at that point, and even today, is that we need to create the future customers of Terminus and account-based marketing as a category. That was the goal of the community, which said that we cannot make it about Terminus. We cannot make it about our product. We cannot make it about our service. So what did we do? We went and found the top 50 B2B marketing and sales leaders out there and asked them to come speak at the conference, and said, come and speak at this conference. We'll give you the platform. We're not going to tell you what to say. Just talk about how you challenge the status quo of marketing and sales and tell us why the funnel sucks. Like, that's the only thing that you need to do. So they all said, yeah, great. Every one of them showed up. And each one of them had millions of followers. So that allowed us to, by the time we had done like 5 events, we had over 100,000 people saying that, hey, if these 50 people are saying, and if they all are supporting this idea that marketing and sales needs to change, and if they all are supporting the platform, they're not, and again, they were not supporting Terminus, they were supporting the problem that we were starting to have. So we actually just created, within a year, 100,000 people that actually cared to solve that problem. Now that led to us building a company on top of it and the products and services, because then automatically people are saying, well, who is solving this problem? And we said, well, the people who are solving this problem are one of us. We even brought in our competitors to come and speak at this event because we wanted to make an industry conference, not a customer conference. So another way to do the way I've done it, now physical events might be really hard to consider in that, but that's what we did. In 1 year, we went from like 0 to having over 100,000 people part of something, a movement that led to the idea of driving a business forward. So I think I don't disagree or say, well, what Taylor is doing is I think it's stimulating. It sounds like, man, you can put it on autopilot and actually make it really smart to do it. But to me, it always comes down to like, what do we want to do? And the way we decided to do was like, let's just do it this way. So I think we're just learning. I just learned a phenomenal new way of doing it from Taylor. So thank you.
Oh, of course, man. No, just because the way that I've done it has had certain results with me doesn't mean it's the only way or the right way. And I think there's also, in some sense, the beauty of building these groups is also the inherent joy that you get out of kind of like, oh man, like these people are digging this stuff. Like I'm into now writing it, and it's become more than just a numbers game. Like you're into it and you have a passion for it. So like I dig that shit. I think that's great. I'm sorry, colorful language. What? I'm in middle school again. What are we doing?
I can't wait to hear, Clara, how G2 has done that.
So G2, I mean, G2 is kind of a weird business model because we have two separate types of communities with us. We have the vendors who are listed on our site, and then we also have the users, the reviewers, the people coming to actually contribute content and to bring that transparency. So something that our founders started the company with was, we're going to go into this and we're going to be buyers come first. That's going to be our mission. That's what we're going to run with versus, the vendors may be paying us, but we're a tool for the buyers. That's who we're for. That's what we're built for. And at the end of the day, that's what makes people come to G2. That's what makes us a relevant and worthwhile source for people is because we've always stuck to that buyers come first mantra. So knowing, whether it's who you're monetizing from or not, like knowing who your community is and what your goal is, like Sangram said, is so important, and sticking to that and not changing, like always looking through every decision you make, making sure you're looking at it through that core mission. Because we have new features that come out, we have product releases, all of those things. Before we put any of them live, we take a hard look at them and say, is this serving the buyers? Does this hurt the buyer at all? And if it does, then we don't do it, or we iterate on it, or we make it in a way that can be a useful tool to the buyer. So making sure that your community is always true to that one goal or that one mission, like Sangram said, is huge. And then going off of what Taylor said, like, yeah, definitely always know that people are doing it better. So like go learn and find and copy them, because that's good and that's exciting. And then you can iterate on it and make it better for your business. And then, who knows, like someday someone will be copying you. So I think, both things are valid and true. And then the last thing I'd say is when you're building a community, like remember that it's not users, it's people. You're building a community for people, so something that I use when I'm strategizing or writing copy or anything, I'll think like, okay, what would make my best friend want to participate in this? Or what would make my dad want to participate in this? So putting a real face to it, a real name helps me kind of figure out, okay, then how can I make this useful for that specific person, which obviously is different based on who they are and their persona and all of that. But making sure it's not just users or buyers, it's humans, it's people.
Love it.
Love that. We have some other questions, but I want to touch on actually what our participants are saying. So we actually had a question about what were their main challenges when building an online community. And if you see the results, 46% are saying it's about engaging current members. So in number 2, we have actually getting new members. So those are the 2 main challenges. And of course, these are really, tough. And they really depend on your business model. They depend on your marketing strategy. They depend on your business goals and all of that. And I know you have 3 different perspectives here. So I just want to hear a little bit from each of you. How would you actually get new members and engage current members?
Well, why don't I go first? Because I know we can right. Taylor and I could like totally over dominate this thing, so we need to be like a little bit better. So Clara, why don't you go first?
For sure. I'll speak to the engaging current users first. I think something that's critical and that has proven so important for us is making sure that the onboarding experience for a new user is set the bar high for them, for their expectations of what you're going to deliver, and tell them what your community is for and what you want out of it. You don't expect them to guess, like make sure they know, like this is how you should be using this community. Give them that information so that they're set up to use your program the way that you want them to. On top of that, I think Oh no, I lost my train of thought. The minute I started saying, I was like, I'm gonna lose it. Yeah, but making sure that they know exactly what they can do in your community and how they can work through it. And through that onboarding process, that's where we found the most engagement of it. So, from the welcome email to what 5 emails do they get after that welcome email, to make sure they're still engaged and keep them excited about your tool and knowing who you are. In terms of finding new users, we use our vendors a lot. So all of our vendors have users that they want to be able to leave a review or share their experience. So we have our vendors sending their users to G2 to kind of help us grow that experience. And then we can work with those users further if they decide to stay on with G2, like, okay, you use so much software, like come review this other tool, etc. So finding those creative, unique ways to get new users.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to see Taylor's slide on this one, so then I will add my own comment to it.
You got me. Of course I have slides on this. Cool. So like, I think I could elaborate a little bit more on kind of what I was talking about before. So if I wanted to purchase a handful of fake Facebook accounts and then join 20 to 30 groups each, I would start to find that the most engaged stuff that comes across groups is actually images, because it takes up more of the actual feed. Images that have to be related to the topic that the group is about itself. So if it's about telecom, the meme or the image has to be clever and playful, but related to the industry. There's always a call to action. Controversy kills. Like, it's always about controversy. And any type of question, ultimately, when you're getting these like really like long comment strings, it always bumps your post to the very top of their feed, to the top of the group. And I do this across other groups. And here's where it starts to get really interesting. So if I know that I have really fire content, I'll build out sheets and have either my interns or virtual assistants peppering these across the groups that are similar enough to the group that I'm building. So like, this is how I can get 500 users to join my group in a matter of about 3 weeks. So the goal is basically tweaking the post just enough so it feels original and it's about something that's related to that group. What I do, actually, there's memes in here. Hold on. I think it's always better when the GIFs actually work. So what I'm doing is basically then going to do a little switcheroo, and I'm going to drag people over to my group. Now, how do I do that? I'm going to swap it out. So I can insert a link to either my own article or a link to my group, and basically nobody is the wiser. You can edit previous posts and nobody knows. So basically the idea is that when you swap in a link to your group saying, hey, find out more about my badass group that is right over here, you end up getting 10, 20, 30 people to join per post. That obviously needs to reach that kind of happy mark of usually 80 likes and 70-ish comments. But it speaks for itself and it works. And this is also how I've driven traffic to a lot of early stage startups that just have no organic reach. And it's so hard to drive that. So basically that free Facebook traffic, the most interesting thing about it that I haven't really figured out is, like, in the old days, it had no influence whatsoever on organic search. I'm seeing that change, which is like super interesting for me. So like you can see here, and by the way, thank you, Nick Gordon, who's a badass growth hacker as well. This guy basically tried this out across a number of groups and was looking at what was going on his analytics and found that he was starting to rank for key phrases that were more strongly related to the posts that he was throwing into Facebook groups, which is so counter to everything that you learn as somebody who like really dives into SEO. So like there's a lot going on with this. And yeah, I mean, this is blatantly like hijacking other groups, but when you're providing value, I think there's definitely room for doing that. The last little thing that I think is super relevant, and I'm sorry to take over so much time, but I wanted to show one thing that I think a lot of people miss out on, which is hustle porn. And so like all of these are copied statuses that I found from other groups where somebody's selling hustle porn. So basically it means like, I don't know, I pulled up this one a minute ago. But yeah, so like my first business failed, you know, like here are my reflections why. My business will probably end up being $250,000 net profit. Second curse word of the day, bullshit. This guy's lying. But the reality is it's such a compelling article and it's got nice little line breaks, so it actually reads well on mobile, that he ends up converting tons of people over to his group every time he posts that. This is what it looks like when I remove all of the extra formatting. So like there's definitely something to that. And so I would say, of course, it has to be a compelling message. It has to provide value, but you can find that in other places. Of course, you can make your own, but why reinvent the wheel?
Dude, you got some magic going on over there, man. Like right now I feel like I need to like scrap my plans for 4th of July and actually
No.
because I feel like I am totally slacking in the way I think about community. I have no idea what it means to build a community. That's my lesson. So I stick to my opening comment of like I'm here to learn. And I feel like I am learning. So this is great. This is good.
You got me blushing over here, huh? Like
this is great stuff because you're like what you're doing is you're providing like data and you're being honest about, hey, look, this is what it is. This is how it works, and you got to look at it. And some of those things that you just mentioned around organic, I've heard that so many times that organic Facebook is like just dying by the vine, and paid is they're just making people pay to get to. And what's interesting is, and maybe I have not built a community of that scale at this point. And with every with the 2 communities I've built, with the Flip My Funnel, as well as the Peak community, which I just launched, and there's a really interesting difference, and I'm curious to hear everyone's thought on it. Flip My Funnel is a free community. Any and everybody can join that, and we saw like a massive growth in that community. We have a clear problem, and we do podcasts and episodes that drives engagement, like really, really good. And we got like the heavy hitters to kind of endorse the problem that led to the platform and all that stuff. And obviously there's a business that we are supporting. So ultimately the community is funded by the business in order for it to run. So very, very different. I almost wondered like, gosh, man, I should have known Taylor to see if I could have like 5X that community before. But it works like with the amount of it. I think it works tremendously because we grew Terminus. Like the first year we had $1 million in revenue, second was 5, the third was 15. And the reason I'm sharing those numbers, one, they're all public, so none of this is like, kind of anything. But what's interesting is I could guarantee that every single person that ended up buying products from us was from the community. And because we made sure that the community is not about Terminus, it was the best thing that happened. People actually wanted to do that. And they felt that we had their backs. They gave us, as a new product, they gave us more chances to win than we would have if we would have just gone to them and saying, hey, we got the best product in the world. Nobody does. Right? So it's like they gave us more chances because they felt like we really cared because of all the content we created and all that stuff. And I will also echo on the fact that there is no original idea in a sense. I was interviewing Seth Godin a few weeks ago on his book, What is Marketing? And it was interesting. He wrote in his acknowledgments, and I read all book acknowledgments. By the way, if you read a book, start with acknowledgments. It tells you a lot about the author and the thought process. So in the acknowledgments, Seth Godin wrote, and people, if you don't know, he's written like 19 books, and like he's like the OG of marketing, right? He said, I have no original ideas. And I said, you gotta be kidding me. Like, you are the one you have ideas. What are you talking about? He's like, no, I got no original ideas. What I have is original combinations. So when I think about what you're talking about over here is really taking combinations of things that work and drive it in a way that makes sense for your business and community and to drive traffic to the community. So so it's a lot of interesting thing. And Laura, to your second question of like engagement, gosh, like I feel like I almost run a daily poll in my community, in the Peak community right now, like literally every day. What book do we want to? So we have a monthly book that we would read. Right now we are reading The Building of Story Brand as like a whole bunch of folks together. So it's really interesting. We'll ask questions almost every single day that allows people to say, well, so what's your biggest pain point, to what Clara just mentioned in her talk. And they would say, oh, virtual events, they suck because they, everybody goes there. Not everybody has an event kind of thing. They suck and we have problems. So we would then say, okay, fine. So I invited Billy, who was, we were with him at his event. And then I invited Courtney, who runs Inbound event, which is a 20,000 plus event, and they're reimagining. So the community is telling their problems, and then we are creating content for the community based on that. And to me, I don't care if we grow at a massive rate, because I want to grow very responsibly, because I feel like I will lose control, I will lose the validity of it. But at some point, I think if we want to turn that community into a business, then I need to look at stuff what Taylor just talked about in order for it to go massive, and there's the layers to it. So gosh, I'm learning so much. I'm taking notes. I got my notes over here, like not a fancy slide, but I got a really shorthand notebook over here that's gonna help me later.
Where's the other half?
I don't know. It's probably with my daughter.
Guys, unfortunately,
I'm ready for this.
I wasn't, but in a good way. This is great. Like I think Taylor said, like you have to have different perspectives, because this is how we learn, right? So if you have everyone agreeing and say the same thing, this is not super valuable. So I'm so happy that you guys had different perspectives. This was the goal, actually. So we're super happy that this is how this went out. We're actually almost done in this session. So I just want to give you guys a last minute if you want to give some final thoughts on if someone is actually asking you for practical tips on how can I actually build my community today. Give like 1 or 2 suggestions and your final recommendation, so we can move on to the Q&A sessions. We can start with Clara, by the way.
Okay, I'll start. I would say just a couple tips. I would say nurture your newbies. Make sure that anyone who is just signing up is having high expectations of your community and that you're meeting them and exceeding them. And I would also say ask what people want. Don't just assume. Ask what your community is looking for. Ask what they need. Send out a survey. There's lots of templates that you can use and copy, and ask them what they want out of a community, and then deliver on that, and figure out where the perfect star of where that meets with what your business is going for.
Nice.
Yeah.
Should I go?
Go for it, Taylor.
Cool. There's a slide for this, right?
Yeah, I can't wait. you delivered on your promise. No, 100%.
So like I graduated a degree in psychology, which means I can work with old people with dementia or very small children. And I really didn't want a career in that. I respect the hell out of people that do that, but there's a really interesting psychology principle called social proof. So like, let's say that you're going down the main promenade or the main strip of a city that you're visiting on vacation. You see the restaurants on the left and the restaurants on the right. The ones on the left are packed and the ones on the right are empty. You assume that the food is better, therefore you will always veer off to the left because there are more people there. Doesn't mean the food on the right is poison or there's something wrong with that place. It just so happened that more people sat there, therefore more others joined. You cannot build from absolute zero. It is damn near impossible and super hard unless you are paying for all kinds of sponsored posts. So one technique that I definitely recommend is buying groups that already exist that basically have admins that have given up on them. You already have an active base of groups. You can change the name if you like, but this happens all the time. One place to find these is Flippa, Flippa. There's tons of other sites that have basically these groups for sale. It's all about creating a community first. You just want to make sure that there's been previous engagement, because people will buy a ton of fake followers. You've already seen those farms and stuff, but I definitely recommend that. I think that there's a lot of value in getting into other watering holes and dragging people over to your group. So Reddit, Quora, there's tons of other places. If you're just trying to curate content, I think BuzzSumo is probably one of the best ways to continue to just get stuff out there and automate the hell out of whatever you're doing. Like if you're continuing to post on a daily basis manually, I think you're losing some of the charms and you're going to get burnt down on your group. But those are some of like the easiest wins. And honestly, like my game is LinkedIn. So like if you haven't found Lempod, I think you're missing a big opportunity. It's basically an automation tool that makes everybody who's in your little pod automatically like, and you can set up the comments for them. So it's a great little hack that allows you to not actually have to get people to comment or like anything.
Dude, I'm calling you right after this one. I don't know what time it is in your place. I'm calling you after this to figure out what the heck you do. I've been posting my original, quote unquote, original content from last 2 years every day, and
You're
it's about
killing me, man.
no. In all seriousness, like that was awesome, man.
Thanks.
What was the question again?
Your final thoughts, and if you have anything.
All right, gotcha. Final thoughts on this one. It's not even happy hour, but we feel like a little drunk right now. So it's to me, like the way I have built communities. That I feel again in both cases started with the 10 people that I knew that they would be interested in it, and one is free, one is paid. And in the paid community, I feel like the engagement is a lot more than the free community. Free community was high in the early days, but in the paid community, and it's literally $10 a month. It's not crazy amount at all, but it actually has a lot more engagement. People are actually taking literally 30 minutes time a day, a week, which is what we said is the expectation set. To Claire's point, is setting that thing very clearly. And then we have this something really interesting that keeps it really engaged. And this is something I hope everybody does. I didn't do that in the early case, but this time I'm doing it, which is at the end of each week, our goal of the peak community is every week you gotta know and you gotta feel 1% better, like period. So we came up with this really nice poll. At the end of Friday, we will ask, are you 1% better? But not just like ask, are you 1% better, to just like, oh, maybe, I don't know. No, we literally created a point system saying, well, did you learn something new? That's like, 2 points for that, right? Did you make a great new connection? Did you implement one of the ideas that you got from here? Because that's really matters. Like if people took even one idea that I think Taylor or Clara suggested, like I think they would be on their way to a much better community right now. Like literally just take one and do it. And then finally say, hey, would you recommend somebody this community? And then what we saw was, because it was invite only community and we started with that but with like the first 50 people as invite, they are now asking others to come join, and they like immediately convert and immediately start adding value because now they are the ones who are bringing in. So again, not a sophisticated hack system, but it is enough to create that there is a gradual increase. And that's the last part I would leave everybody with is none of this thing needs to be done overnight. And if you do it overnight, you actually burn yourself out because you haven't figured out all what it takes to build and sustain a great community. And that requires time, that requires patience, that requires understanding of all of those things. So don't beat yourself up if you're starting to build a community and in like 30 days, you got like 20 people in there. Those are 20 great people. To what Clara said, make their onboarding so good that they would be telling the next 20 people, and be rejoiced the fact that you got those 20 people to spend that time or money with you. And so don't overkill yourself. I did that and I burned myself out and beat myself up like what the heck. But those 20 people, if you do the right by them, they will go and get to the next 200. So trust the process in the way.
Awesome, guys. I also did take notes, so not only Instagram is learning today, I hope everyone also learned a lot. Honestly, this has been so good. We're gonna move on to the next session. So we have separate Q&As, everyone. We're gonna be doing one with Taylor and Sangram together with Tiago. So if you're more into marketing and maybe lean into that area, and if you want to ask them, engage with them, just let us know. We can enable your cameras and making sure that you get the most out of this session. And then I'm also going to be with Clara in another session. So if you're actually more into that space, we're going to be talking about reviews, how that relate with the buyers and vendors as well, into and Clara's experience as well. So now we're just going to move into the next session. So only thing you have to do, just click on the session. I'll see you all there in a quick moment.
That's good. Awesome, Clara. Good
Bye,
to see you.
Bye, Taylor. Good to meet you guys.
See you. Good meeting you.
Thanks,
I expect to see plenty more emails from you, Clara.
Darn right. Look out for me, Taylor.
That was fun, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect that to go in that direction just because, I mean, it was super interesting for me. I hope I don't know. Let me know what you thought. Like, what was your biggest takeaway? What did you think of the discussion?
I was good. I'm glad that Taylor had kind of that. I feel like Sangram and I were both coming from like a more like human, like growing it from that perspective type of place. And then Taylor had like the actual growth marketing, the hacks, the stuff like that, which was interesting. So yeah, it was really good.
I wasn't expecting all of the slides as well, so that was a big surprise for me.
That was so funny. He had slides for everything.
But I mean, I got some great tips as well. I mean, you all have been so great, because I think it was really interesting to have all of the different perspectives, right? Because, and you and Sangram was, you both were really touching on being very customer focused. You know, you're talking to a human first. So what are you solving? You know, what problem are you solving for them? So this is kind of like where my thought process was also going. So it was really cool to have that, you know, back and forth with Taylor as well.
Yeah.
So I'm only asking if we have any people that want to join us. So let us know, guys, if you want to enable your camera. We'll just make you a part of this. If you want to chat with Clara, just let us know in the chat. I think this is always a good opportunity to, you know, meet new people, and this is where we can actually engage as well besides the chat. So it's a cool experience. So we actually have another poll here. I don't know if you saw that, but we can actually vote as well. We just started that, so don't have a lot of votes. But the idea is to get a little bit of information of our audience. So if they're familiar with online communities or not. So maybe we can touch on that, thinking about, you mentioned, you know, newbies, right? You have to give more you know, information and value to newbies. So maybe you can start about thinking about buyers and vendors. Do you have different strategies, you know, to engage? We touched a bit about that, but how can you do different strategies to engage this community, thinking of buyers and vendors, especially for these new members?
Yeah. Something that's been critical for us is identifying who's a buyer and who's a vendor at the beginning. But then you also have to keep in mind that there's a overarching circle of like everyone uses software, whether you're a software vendor or you're, you know, coming to G2 to be a buyer, as we would label. Everybody uses software. So funneling our vendors into a place that's like, okay, yes, you are a vendor and you have a product on G2, but also you might use software that you want to review or that you're looking for the next thing, et cetera. So making sure that their journey still has some of those asks peppered in is key. But in our welcome email, what we do to kind of figure out who's who and what flow they should go to, we ask in the welcome email that you get, it's like, what are you looking for here? Are you looking for software? Are you looking to review? Are you looking to connect with people? Are you looking to claim your product profile? So like I said in the roundtable with Sangram and Taylor, it is just about asking. It's about seeing, you know, what does the user want? What do they want to experience from your site, et cetera. So
awesome. These are great tips. And I remember you mentioned in your warm-up video that we had yesterday how the G2 community grew, right? From a few thousand to 1 million. And I'm sure this process has been, you know, great. I just want to, you know, just a little bit more how, if you had different strategies or just focus in one and building that, how was that process to go from one number to this moment that you have now?
Definitely. Something that was huge for us and a really big game changer about 2.5 years ago, what we did is we started getting really granular with how we segmented our audience. So, you know, we asked for all this information from you when you sign up. And when we kind of tapped into that data and started actually segmenting people based on, you know, what product did they tell us they used 3 years ago? Like, let's circle back with them and be like, are you still using it? If not, what are you using now? And that's, you know, so using that information, that's very granular information about each person and segmenting them into email campaigns and workflows and blasts that spoke to that part of their journey was huge for us and huge in upping that UGC, the user generated content that we were getting, which was reviews. The other part of it is we diversified our content this year. So, you know, G2 is a review site, which is what we are. That's definitely our bread and butter. That's what we do best. But we've also now started diving into a Q&A space. So all products now on G2 have a question function. So you can jump in and you can ask questions of the vendor. You can ask questions of other users. So kind of it's a place that we're creating those individual product communities for the products that don't necessarily have their own offsite. And we also that's a value to the vendor as well, because we have users that they might not know or may not be reaching, as well as software buyers. So it's a whole new area, and creating that additional venue of user generated content and additional opportunity for people to share and to contribute has also been really big for us.
Awesome. This is great. And I just want to ask you, so how did you guys come up with this Q&A idea? Is this something that you figured out with the user, or is it something that you've been planning for a while? How did you make the decision to diversify this content and come from one space that was more focused on the reviews and now going to expand?
Definitely. So actually, when the company was founded, they had this Q&A function, but nobody was using it, and we weren't really investing in it. And the company was so small, and it was like, okay, no, we need to focus on one thing, and like we need to excel at that one thing, and then we can maybe talk about bringing this in. So, like I said, actually, this was probably this year, or a little whatever, about a year and a half ago. We had another conversation about it, because we have the resources now. We're growing fast. We are good at the reviews. We know how to do them. We can do that with our eyes closed. So like, what else can we do? What else is exciting? What else does the buyer need? That was the other thing that we wanted to make sure we tapped into was, people can come and contribute on G2 after they've used the software. They can write a review, but like, what about the people who, what if they've reviewed all their software, but they still have questions, or they want to put in a feature request, or, all of these things that we want to be with you throughout the whole B2B software and service journey. We want to be your resource, no matter whether you're looking for software or whether you've been a user of software for years, whatever the software is. So finding that function that would be a useful tool throughout the entire journey, throughout your entire career. Was big for us.
Awesome. I have so many questions, but I'll try to keep with our time here. We're almost reaching 4:00, so I'll let you go soon. I just want to, make sure that we cover all the main points that we wanted to touch on, because G2 is such a big important of B2B buying process, as you just mentioned. So I just want to understand a little bit, if we're talking to a B2B marketing manager right now, or we're talking to someone who's in charge of that buying process. So how can you two help them? I know you have a lot of different content that you already shared, but thinking about reviews and brand reputation, you think that that's the biggest value that the B2B community can get out of G2, or is it something else? So, can you share a bit more on that brand reputation point of view?
Definitely. I think something that happens sometimes when a vendor first realizes that they're on G2 is they'll see like a negative review, and they'll be like, oh my God, we need to get rid of that. Like, get that out of there, like only positive. But what's incredible is that having those negative reviews actually so increases the level of trust that a user has about your brand. Like, even if you have a 4.8 out of 5, like that's so much better than having a 5, because the 5 looks padded and fake. And so having those negative reviews, I think, is huge. And then having those negative reviews gives you the opportunity to respond to those negative reviews. So when a user is coming and looking for software and they see one vendor that's ignoring their negative reviews, or even has all 5-star positive reviews, and then they see a vendor that's responding and telling the user, like, oh, thank you for letting us know. Like, here's how we're going to fix it. This is what we're doing to alleviate your problem and be there for you. I think that's the biggest way that you can use, or there's so many ways you can use G2, but that's my favorite way that you can use it, is interacting with those users and making sure that they know that you're there and you're watching and you're hearing them and you're making changes based on the feedback they're giving you.
Awesome. I love that. I think we're almost done here. I just want to make sure, we really appreciate your time. I love the discussion. I hope you get a good, experience as well. Of course, we do use it too as well, everyone. And we hope you guys also use it, because it is a great tool. And Clara, do you have any final thoughts, comments, anything else you want to share?
Thank you so much for having me. This was wonderful. Yeah, I think I'd say sign up for G2, no matter who you are, no matter where you're at in your career, come join us. And if you are an employee of a product that's listed on G2, come claim your profile because it's free, and start responding to those reviews and talking to your users.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys, for being with us tonight. I just want to make sure that you are aware that we're also recording this. So we're going to send this to everyone that joined, all of the speakers and everyone that was here. We're going to send that over so you can double check everything you want to listen back to. Yes, you can do that. And also something else, we actually also have a Slack community. So we have a little ad going on the right side. If you want to join, Claire, of course, you're super welcome to join. We talk a lot about events because this is our main topic, but we talk about marketing as well and B2B. So if you guys want to join, just click on the little community. We have Ash, which is our little mascot over there. So just click on him and you'll be able to join us. And we also have every Friday our open houses. So if you're looking to learn more about event, this is the best place to be. You have a demonstration with an open demonstration, so you could just jump in the call and make sure that you are all familiar with an event if you want to learn more. So just click on the open house ad on the right side as well. And I think we're done here today. Thank you so much, Clara. Again, we really appreciate your time and joining us today.
Thanks, Laura. Appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Hello, we're back. Hello again, everyone, and welcome once more to our online communities virtual event at inEvent. So with no further delay, let's just bring the questions that the audience has for both of you guys, Sangram and Taylor. But just before, I'd like to ask again to you, Taylor, what's the place that you said where we can buy communities so we don't start them from zero?
Yes. So there's a few different places. I think the easiest and low-hanging fruit is always going to be Flippa because it was one of the first ones out there. FLIPPA.com. So like this is the time where it's okay to really start spending on, like people that have given up on their blogs or their SaaS businesses. I know that they extend to a lot of other places as well, but like I would say that let's see.
So this is all for like people who want to buy like free. These are all people who are free communities.
Let me see if I can find the communities on here. It's been ages. Like I haven't actually bought a group on here. I've always done like the direct outreach angle, and I might have given bad advice. Hold on. All right, buy Facebook groups online.
Great. Let's do that right now.
Yeah. Digital fire.
Real-time demonstration.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, that's not going to work. And Black Hat World. This is another great little. If you're interested in kind of picking up some of the,
this is I feel like I'm going to ask you, like buying communities instead of beginning them from zero. Isn't it considered black hat? Don't you have the risk of getting punished because of that? Or
no, not at all. Like they're a commodity just like anything else. And so long as you're still continuing to provide value, I don't see any issue with that. So I don't know. I don't think it matters. I'll throw one of my buddies out there. So like Masters of Marketing. So one of my old business partners, that's not it. They've changed their name again. You guys are characters. So now they're Crush Your Quota. And I think the reason they changed it from Masters of Marketing is because the search for Masters of Marketing, obviously you get a lot of like school searches or people looking at like education and stuff. So they purchased a group that was based in San Francisco that was basically stagnated over a couple of years. And they found the admin, because you can normally find the admins pretty easily. It's not hard to find groups that have kind of expired and say, look, like I can tell you're not doing much with this. Like, how about $200? I'm a little more worried about the people that are trying to monetize something and think they have something that's worth, hundreds of thousands. So the route that my old business partner, Brian, took, there he is, Brian Colligan, he's a great growth hacker and also developer. But yeah, he ended up buying a local group that was out of San Francisco, and it already had like 1,300, 1,400 people, and I think he paid practically nothing for it because nobody was actually engaged in it because nothing was out there. But I really thought Flippa was the way to go, and I'm sure if you looked on Black Hat World or Warrior Forum, you would probably end up finding the right stuff there too.
Right, great. All right, so let's just go to the questions sent in our chat. The first one from Camila is, what kind of communities are you guys in to know so much about communities?
Well, it seems like Taylor is in like hundreds. If I as quickly as possible on the spreadsheet, I mean, at least had 100 columns or rows in it. But I think for me, I mean, outside of the Flip My Phone and Peak community, I have been in a few free communities, and I've just found them not as useful. Like they become dead very quickly or noisy very quickly. People start promoting their own stuff very quickly. So I actually now try to. That's one of the reasons why I created a paid community, because I want to just get the riffraff out of there. So I'll go back again. Like I would rather have 100 people than 1,000 people in the community. But those 100 people would be paying $10, and then I'm incented, they're incented, and the quality of conversations are a lot more deeper because everybody's in there for a really important reason. And I'm curious, Taylor, your thoughts on like paid versus free around that too.
Yeah, I've actually never gotten into a paid group, and I've seen a few. Like the only kind of groups that I really considered pretty heavily as like a paid group were some of the Slack groups, because I don't know, like Online Geniuses has been one of my favorites for a while. It's impossible to keep up with because there's so much, and also there's no moderation or hardly any, and so like often like you check back and it's just hundreds of miles of people shelling their own stuff, or I don't know. Like, I just lose track of it. Like it's nothing against Slack. It's just not the user experience that like would allow me to kind of peruse as much as it's drinking from a fire hose. There's way too much. But I would say SEO Signals Lab. It's run by Stephen Kang. Has probably been one of my favorites for a really long time. The dude is so dedicated to this thing, and I don't know how he finds the time and is so thoughtful. But you can see stuff that has higher engagement. There's clearly stuff that works, and I would say SaaS Growth Hacks. And honestly, my buddy Brian's group, it's not Masters of Marketing anymore, but Masters of Marketing, whatever it was called, Crush Your Quota. I mean, I still think you could tweak that name. It's not great. But I don't know.
You're probably going after salespeople if you're doing Crush Your Quota than marketers.
That's true. That's very true, actually. It's a really good point. I don't know. Well,
you guys think that's why Facebook is making it so harder for people? For example, if you want to change a group name, for example, they're going to give you a hard time, right? Is it because of the buying and selling of groups or something like this?
No. The Facebook's giving you a hard time for your specific profile URL. They don't let you change that, but you can change the group names to anything you want. Like you can go nuts.
It's true. It's the business page that they give you a hard time to change the name. So for groups, that doesn't happen.
Apparently not, because Masters of Marketing is no longer the name of that group. It's Crush Your Quota.
So one area to like what I looked at, because I looked at when I was starting to doing my paid community, I started 2 weeks ago. I was looking at like, where do I do? And Taylor, as you brought in Slack, I was thinking, well, maybe I should create in Slack. You brought in Slack and stuff. I looked at Facebook. I looked at all of these places, but I just felt like they're just noisy. Like they're just distracting. So I use a platform called Mighty Networks. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mighty Networks, but Mighty Networks allows you to have, how do you share? I mean, I don't have slides, but I can share with you the Mighty Networks if you're interested. So on Mighty Networks, what you could do is you can create your community. You can create it free or you can create it paid. Then on paid, you can actually create groups within that. if you wanted to. Then you can even create courses. So it's all on one platform that allows you to do all that in a place where it's not distracting from other things. So when you're on that, then you're on that. And it's even an app. So majority of my conversations are within an app with all the people that they have already built and does it. So to me, I think I was looking for one where people, if they do come, I should have a compelling message for them to come. The risk you run into is that people are already on Facebook, people are already on Slack, so it's easy for them to join those. But I'm not looking for them. I'm looking for the people who actually truly want to become 1% better. So it's a harder conversion. So you have to use a lot of personal brand and a personal conversations around that. But man, are those conversations richer? Are those engagements longer? Are those relationships deeper? Oh, like 1,000%.
Really
Right.
interesting.
So, and you guys prefer, we were speaking about tools. You guys prefer tools that make the conversation more centralized? I mean, for example, Facebook. The owner of the group needs to go there and post something, so the rest of the group goes there and makes interactions like likes or comments. Or would you prefer something that you decentralize the communication, like on Slack, for example, that everybody can have interactions among themselves without the moderator or the owner of the community to publish anything, any content before that?
Well,
did you get the question, or too confusing?
Well, I mean, no, I think I get, like, so again, so I'll just tell you how I'm doing it. I don't know if it's right or wrong or not, but like, so with the peak community, I have one more person who's a host. So only we can send emails, if you will, to the entire community as a thing. And they can set up alerts for themselves if they want to get multiple alerts and for every post and stuff like that. Other people can post in the community, but that won't send an email to everybody in the community altogether. So I think there are all these preferences you can. I do feel, I think Taylor was alluding to that point earlier, that if you don't have clear guidelines, and if you don't have a little bit of a control on the way, or set the stage, like for our community, as we set the stage, hey, look, Sunday would be like what's coming up next week. There are 3 events coming up online for next week. There is 1 podcast, and there are 2 big polls coming up next week. For Sunday, everybody knows what's coming up in the community throughout the week, Monday through Friday. And then there will be poll or survey or question, and people can in between have all kinds of conversation all day long. But from a host perspective, we're setting the stage, we're setting the tone of what's going to happen in the community. And then Friday, everybody then has to share in some way that, hey, are they getting 1% better or not? Because that's the ultimate goal of the community. So by having a clear standard around those high level areas, I think it's allowing, at least what I feel like I have to constantly poll and survey and test the community and hear from them. But I feel like I'm getting to a point where, like, okay, I get it. They want to talk about this. Let's create an event for that. There is conversations I see, so we're giving shout outs to people, but we're not having people send emails to everybody and stuff.
Got it. Yeah, I would, to that point, I would just say, like, if we're talking specifically about Facebook groups, yeah, I've never had a Facebook group where I've allowed others to just share any status they want. Like, it has to go through moderator approval, and you have your 2 or 3 moderators, and that's about it. I did have like a side tangent. So like, Clara had mentioned this, like, you got to ask your audience what they want to hear. So I'm kind of a dick. I don't know if you can tell, but like, my buddy Brian, I was like, hey, what do you want to see on season 2 of Masters of Marketing? And he did this really interesting thing, which was reach out to anybody that he'd like to have as a client and invite them on to basically his Zoom webinar. And it never really had a huge following, but it's great content. So my response is more cowbell. I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell. Gotta have it. So it's one of those things that, yeah, you can ask even a small echo chamber a very in earnest, honest question, which is, what would you guys like to see? And honestly, it's often met by crickets, which doesn't mean that Brian should never post again. It just means, like, come on, man, like, you got to throw something better than that out there, like, and that's okay. Because sometimes maybe that will spark a conversation. It's just, content is so hard because you never know what's actually going to hit. And that's why, honestly, I definitely agree with Sangram's previous point, which is, everything old is new again, but yeah, nothing is new. And, like, the same stuff that works over here, it's not because, I guess, I'm lazy. Maybe I'm not interested in trying to sit down and create something, or maybe I'm insecure with what I post, but I just want to use stuff that works. And often that's a lot easier to just shell a group with a bunch of stuff that I know is going to continue to hit. So I don't know. That's my own perspective, but I'd love to hear other thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think it's the scale, man. I feel like we're talking about a really interesting point for everybody listening in here, is that we're talking about how do you start and how big do you want to go? And I think and that is a very important question that everybody got to ask themselves, because there are really high premium community. And like I've known, like, Donald Miller or Michael Hyatt, like some of these people are running groups and communities, and it's like a $3,000 or something like that to get into it and be part of this 12 months, and people do it. But think about it, they're just trying to get, like, 50 people or something like that every cohort or so, and then you know what those 50 people are? Super busy business owners. $3,000 is a drop in the bucket for them, but to get 1 hour of dedicated time to ask questions and get answers so they can go and do something, and that can have a material impact on their business, is phenomenal from them. So I think you have to really answer, what do you want to create? Do you want to create a high end? Do you want is this a thing? And I would really, really think about this free versus paid, because I'm venturing into it and I'm loving the idea of a paid community. I'm loving the idea of less is more, great value is important, or like let that people are so much more engaged in it. And I see a trend happening in that direction. So maybe the free community is to get to the paid community, and that may be your goal. But I think I would say is to venture out and figure out what your ultimate goal is, and think really hard about the free versus paid.
Nice.
Guys, as we approach to an end, I'd like to thank you so much. Honestly, I've been learning so much for this last hour. Too many insights, lots of new perspectives, things I never thought about. Honestly, it's been great. Thank you, Sangram. Thank you, Taylor. It's been a big pleasure to have you guys here. Thanks to everyone watching us today. And you guys have any final thoughts? Go ahead.
I have one question. Sangram, you were talking about knowing somebody from inbound. Is that a personal connection of yours?
Yeah.
Holy shit, man. We got to talk. I've been turned down by that place like for the last 4 years in a row. Like, it's killing me.
Well, so I've been speaking at Inbound for the last 3 years. So Courtney, who runs the content team, like, she now has become a personal friend of mine. And I'm like, Courtney, you got to come and, they're literally changing the way they're doing inbound from an experience perspective, like, so profoundly. So yeah, man, I'm sure we are going to connect right after this one and do something together. So can't wait.
Awesome. Dude, I really appreciate it, and awesome meeting you as well. And thank you, Tiago. Like, this was so cool. I think, like, we connected like a year ago, and super random, but thanks, dude. This was great.
Thanks a lot.
Well done. Well put.
Beautiful. All right, and you guys can keep up the conversation if you want. Just join our community, our Slack community. Speaking about communities, you're gonna see the ad on the right corner here on the top of your screen, and we can just keep our conversation over there.
Got it. It's 10 o'clock at night for me, but thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Taylor. We'll connect.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye-bye. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Bye.